19. Now, I just want to ask you to allow me to reflect a little bit on this item, which has been subject to more energy than the release of the independent panel's findings. I want to say yesterday I was really pleased with how it went. One, to yourselves, thank you for the level of maturity and the degree of acknowledgement and acceptance of the work that the panel have done themselves. Obviously really challenging for them, huge expectation, and against that backdrop they have delivered us a plan that thus far has met with most people saying there's various parts of it that they don't accept, but by and large get on with it. And that's what I would like us to do. Take the spirit of that next iteration of the process and get on with the process. So I want to address two matters today with regard to the substance of the process for considering the recommendations of the IHP. I want to consider, first of all, Auckland Development Committee's role in that matter, and then secondly, the issue of conflict. I acknowledge Phil here and thank him for his presence. We have a recommendation there, and I will move it. Councillor Pennyhouse will second it, and I want to speak in this vein. First of all, the role of Auckland Development Committee. Councillor George said something earlier on about the work that Councillor Cal has done. And he says he lived it and breathed it, even though he didn't want the job, the bylaw stuff. And I want to say that Councillor Pennyhouse has lived and breathed the Auckland Development Committee's oversighting of the unitary plan. She has done an extraordinary job through this, and I am the person best placed to watch her deal with the challenges of a city reflecting on how it changes going forward. And she has led and chaired the process through not just this term, but for 4.5 years. 4.5 years. And she's absolutely lived it and breathed it. And Chris, I want to thank you for your working beside her, and Alf in the unitary plan role as the committee chair. But today I want to in particular support our chair. Not just the chair of this committee, but the deputy chair, deputy mayor of this council. So leading this through has been challenging enough in itself. But to do it with her added role of being the deputy mayor has been one hell of a challenge, and maybe the largest in her political life. And she has my unreserved confidence in that role, and from that point to the end of it. And today I want us to support her and the committee seen through the unitary plan. I think that they deserve to take this plan through to fruition. And it does not compromise the right of us as a governing body to final the decisions. But I would like to and want to see this process started in the Auckland Development Committee and finished there, and there are a range of reasons why I want to see that, aside from the fact that I support the leadership of the chair and the deputy chair and those who have been in there. I don't just support them, I support all the leaders. The role of the mayor to establish the political structure in this council, and as often been pointed out, I appointed a lot of you as leaders in various roles. And I support you no matter what through those roles. Councillor Chris, I wasn't here when this matter was raised, but I've supported you and other leaders around this chamber significantly in all of the roles that you have. And I think that it is appropriate that we continue to support the leadership of the chair in this instance and the committee in this instance in the work that they now need to do. I tell you, I'm not happy to be sitting in the chair on the basis of it being the governing body only. As the leader of this chamber and of this city until October the 8th, in this most important work, I want to be sitting there. And I'm saying this to you personally as the leader of this chamber. For those of you who are here in the first term, I sat there through the draft unitary plan stage and was able to get around the chamber and talk personally to you without needing to worry about the corralling issue of being in the chair and being independent, blah, blah, blah. I want to be in the role where I can actually be out and about and carry out my role as a leader of this chamber in this most significant last piece of the jigsaw puzzle in the unitary plan and in the amalgamation of this city. We're going to have 21 local board chairs out there. And I want to be able to sit with them and assure them that we're going through the appropriate process and listen to what they've got to say and make sure it's reflected in the decisions that we make around this table. So for me personally, not only is it the right thing for us to do and the appropriate thing given 4.5 years of solid leadership and direction, but for me as the mayor of the chamber, it's much easier to be sitting there than here. And there's no loss to us. An extra bit of time maybe every day, and that's it. So I want to enable myself as the leader of the chamber to not be constrained by the chairmanship of the process into the end. And this is the way we've always done this. The long-term plan, the Auckland plan, this is the draft stage. This is business as usual. It's important, but it is business as usual. Why should we change? There's no reason to at all. And certainly not against the leadership shown by the Deputy Mayor. And what's more, under our standing orders, the committee structure allows for iteration and debate and discussion, much, much more than the governing body. You get one right to speak in the governing body and minimal rights to ask questions. When you sit as the ADC, and this is the reason why we constructed the committee structure like this. When you sit as a committee, it enables greater ability to debate and discuss. And I think that that is critical through the course of the 10 days when we look to finalise the unitary plan. I want to now, secondly, deal with the issue of conflict. And this has been an issue that has been vexing us, and certainly I have given a lot of thought to. One, personally for myself. Am I conflicted in any part of this debate? And you won't find out whether or not I think I'm conflicted in any part of this debate until we sit down on the first day of the hearings. On the 10th of August is when I will tell you whether I'm conflicted. And I do not expect that from any one of you until that point in time. That's the first thing. Second thing, it's a personal question for me and for each one of us who sit around this chamber as to whether or not we are conflicted either with a pecuniary interest or a non-pecuniary interest. Now, there's been no real discussion about pecuniary interest because I don't think, if there's any conflict, it's pretty minimal in the whole broad scheme of things. It's been the non-pecuniary area where there's been a lot of discussion. You submitted, you should not be sitting in there and all that. I have had very clear legal advice around what our rights and obligations are to sit around this chamber and participate in the unitary plan discussions on the basis that you don't have conflict. And every single one of you, if you haven't already, you should have, needs to avail yourself of that same legal advice. Now, my view is that everyone sitting around the table, including the Independent Maori Statutory Board who are not here, will manage that conflict. I'm going to manage it, and I expect you all to manage it. Because if you do not, you put the viability of this plan under threat. You've got to really manage it. And so the point I've made, and anyone who's asked me, I've given this opinion, you're in doubt, you get out. That is the opinion. You got a doubt, get out. Don't sit here, get out. And so that decision will not be made until the 10th. I want you to think very carefully about it between now and then, all of you. And I expect that you will think about that between now and then. But the key point that I make is that all of those who have been sitting on this matter will manage their conflicts. And that should not be the reason why we would make any decision about where this process goes from here and who leads it. That should not be the defining point. So, councillors, my view is stop mucking around. That's my view to you. We have set a very, very clear pathway, and it's consistent with everything we've done, and it's been that point, that principle that I have tried to ram home through my time and leadership around this chamber is be consistent in the way we go forward. Consistency demands that we maintain the committee's leadership in this process and then final off with the GB. But the stop mucking around is predicated on the fact that we are now acutely aware. The Prime Minister wants this job to be done. The government wants it to be done. All the members of Parliament want it to be done. But most importantly, Aucklanders want this job done and they want a plan. Now, I believe we're ready. I believe we're absolutely ready. I can tell you I'm ready to make this plan happen and get it done. This is the last thing that we need to do as a united, amalgamated council. If you're not here to get this plan done and signed off, you wasted your time coming here 3 years ago or 6 years ago. This is it. And I'm absolutely sure that Aucklanders generally recognise that 4.5 years of debate is enough. And they are ready for us to get this job done. And as I said to you, there's parts of it I won't like, and you'll hear about this more in the debate. But today, when we talk about the process, I want us to follow our process that we have had in place thus far, respect it, respect the individuals who have been leading it, and those who have been a part of it in good faith. And just keep a straight furrow right through the end of this process on the 19th or before we sign it off. So, councillors, I'm very happy to move in second. Councillor Penny-Holst, do you want to speak to this?
I thank you for your kind words. I thank you for your confidence, and I wonder if it might be more appropriate for somebody else to second this.
Right. Who else would like to second this?
I'll second it.
Right, Councillor Ross. Okay, right. Speakers, please.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Councillor.
I still have a concern about a conflict of interest with regard to this matter. I have before me the submission made by Councillor Stewart, which makes disparaging marks about mana whenaua's authority, mana whenaua's rights, and even alleges corruption.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. Point of order.
Hang on. Now, I've got 2 points.
And I
I've
haven't
just got
heard
one to
any
deal with at the
declaration of
time.
interest with regard to this vote that we're about to take.
Okay, now, remember what I said. This is my assessment, and Phil, you might be of some help here. You might not. You don't look overly confident at the moment, I have to say, which is most unlike you. Councillor Cathy, the point that my best understanding is this, and that is that we have till the 10th when we actually start. We're talking solely about the process at this
Exactly.
point. Hang on. But we have till the 10th to consider whether or not we should or should not declare an interest. Now, you know, that's my interpretation of the discussion thus far. And so, look, I'd be surprised if I'm wrong in this, because I'm pretty sure that the law is reasonably directive on this. Phil, what do you think? I've given you about half a minute to think of an appropriate response.
Your Worship, I think the first thing to observe is that conflicts of interest are a matter for individual members to turn their mind to. So it's not for others to determine that a conflict exists with an individual elected member. I'm not familiar with the comments that were made, but I would expect that member to be, or all members to be mindful that the effect of this decision is to either include or exclude the IMSB in part. So if the comments relate very specifically to that point, then I would advise all members to turn their mind to that question. But ultimately, it's for them to determine.
Yep. Okay.